Boys and girls, today's story is about treasure. Now, I wonder, have you got any special treasures? A treasure would be something that's really important to you, really special, you keep it really safe. I'm going to show you some of my special treasures. This one is a photograph, and it's a photograph of my granda holding my little baby girl a long time ago. So this is very special for me, and this sits on a shelf so that I can look at it. Another treasure is this book, my Cinderella book, which I think I read to you last year. And look how old it is. It is really special. And I like to look after that really, really carefully. And if I'm reading it, I'm very careful with the pages. So that's another of my treasures. And here's another one. A special ring. So this is a ring from my granny. So I wear that on my finger and keep it safe as well. So our story today is called Mrs. Pepperpot and the Treasure. Now, if you haven't heard any stories about Mrs. Pepperpot before, something very special and very strange happens to Mrs. Pepperpot. Sometimes, without any warning, very suddenly, she shrinks to the size of a pepper pot, which is about that size there. So she goes from a full-size lady to teeny tiny. And this is one of the adventures that happens to Mrs. Pepperpot. It was a fine sunny day in January, and Mrs. Pepperpot was peeling potatoes at the kitchen sink. "Meow," said the cat. "Meow yourself," answered Mrs. Pepperpot. "Meow," said the cat again. Mrs. Pepperpot wiped her hands and knelt down beside the cat. "There's something you want to tell me, isn't there, Puss? It's too bad I can only understand you when I've shrunk to the size of a pepper pot." She stroked the cat, but Puss didn't purr. She just went on looking at her. "Well, I can't spend all day being sorry for you, my girl," said Mrs. Pepperpot, going back to the potatoes in the sink. When they were ready, she put them on the stove to cook. Puss was at the door now. "Meow," she said, scratching it. "You want to get out, do you?" said Mrs. Pepperpot, and she opened the door. And just at that moment, what do you think happened? She shrank to her pepper pot size. "About time too," said the cat. "Now, let's not waste any more time. Just jump on my back and hold tight." Puss bounded off with Mrs. Pepperpot clinging on for all she was worth. "The first danger is just around the corner," Puss said. "So sit tight and don't say a word." What do you think might be just around the corner that would be a danger for Mrs. Pepperpot and Puss? Any idea? Let's see if you're right. All Mrs. Pepperpot could see was a single birch tree with a couple of magpies on it. The birds seemed as big as eagles to her now, and the tree was like a mountain. "There's the cat! There's the cat!" the magpies screamed. "Let's nip her tail! Let's pull her whiskers!" And they swooped down, skimming so close over Mrs. Pepperpot's head she was nearly blown away. But Puss took no notice at all. She just kept on down the hill, and the magpies soon tired of the game. There's Puss and Mrs. Pepperpot charging away from the magpies. Mrs. Pepperpot holding on for all she's worth. "That's that," said the cat. Now we must watch out for snowballs. We have to cross the boys' playground, so if any of them aim at you, duck behind my ears and hang on. Mrs. Pepperpot looked at the boys. She knew them all. She had often given them sweets and biscuits. They can't be dangerous, she said to herself. But then she heard one of the boys say, "Here comes that stupid cat. Let's see who can hit it first. Come on, boys." And they all started throwing snowballs as hard as they could. Poor Mrs. Pepperpot. Puss ran on until they reached a wire fence with a hole just big enough to wiggle through. "So far, so good," she said. "But now comes the worst bit, because this is Dogland and we don't want to get caught." Mrs. Pepperpot knew the neighbour's dog quite well. She had fed him bones and scraps, and he was always very friendly. "We'll be all right here," she thought. But she was wrong. Without any warning, that dog came chasing after them in great leaps and bounds. Mrs. Pepperpot shook like a jelly when she saw his wide open jaws all red with sharp white teeth glistening in a terrifying way. She flattened herself on the cat's back and clung on for dear life, for Puss shot like a flash across the yard and straight into the neighbour's barn. "Phew," said the cat. "That was a narrow escape. Thanks very much for coming all this way with me." "It's all right," said Mrs. Pepperpot. "But why are we here?" "It's a surprise," said Puss. "All we have to do now is find the hidden treasure. But that means crawling through the hay, so hang on." And off they went again. Slowly this time, for it was hard going through the prickly stalks. They seemed as big as bean poles to Mrs. Pepperpot. The dust was terrible. It was in her eyes, in her mouth, her hair down her neck, everywhere. "Can you see anything?" said the cat. "Nothing at all," said Mrs. Pepperpot, for by now her eyes were completely bunged up with hayseed and dust. "Try blinking," said the cat, "for this is where my hidden treasure is." I wonder what the hidden treasure might be. Have you any ideas yet? Let's see if we can find another clue. So Mrs. Pepperpot blinked and blinked again until she could open her eyes properly. When she did, she was astonished. All around her shone the most wonderful jewels. Diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, they glittered in every hue. Let's see. Those must be the diamonds because they're white. Those must be the sapphires because sapphires are blue. And these ones must be the emeralds because emeralds are green. "There you are. Didn't I tell you I had hidden treasure for you?" said the cat. But she didn't give Mrs. Pepperpot time to have a closer look. "We'll have to hurry back now or your potatoes will be spoiled." So she's not even going to see what the hidden treasure is yet. Do you think it might be? Let's see what happens next. So they crawled back through the hay, and just as they came out into the daylight, Mrs. Pepperpot grew to her ordinary size. She picked the cat up in her arms and walked across the yard. The dog was there, but what a different dog. He nuzzled Mrs. Pepperpot's skirt and wagged his tail in the friendliest way. Through the gate they came to where the boys were playing. Each one of them nodded to her politely and said, "Good morning." They went on up the hill, and there were the magpies in the birch tree, but not a sound came from them. When they got to the house, Mrs. Pepperpot put the cat down and hurried indoors to rescue her potatoes. Then she went back down the hill, through the gate, and into her neighbour's yard and into the barn. She climbed over the hay until she found the spot where the hidden treasure lay. And what do you think it was? Have you guessed? 4 coal black kittens with beautiful, shining eyes. So that's what the treasure was. So sometimes people think that treasure has to be something very expensive, like maybe jewellery or gold or silver, diamonds, precious jewels. But sometimes our treasure can be something very, very different, like a tatty old book or a very special photograph. Maybe something that somebody has made for you. Or sometimes our treasure can be our very special thoughts and memories that we can keep locked away in here to think about whenever we want. So have a think about what your special treasure is. And I'll see you next time.